By 2025, 60% of jobs will require post-secondary education. Out of 100 Nevada students attending Nevada's lowest performing schools, there are 57 18 17 4 2 and 1 Hispanic students, Caucasian students, African American students, multiracial students, Asian students, Pacific Islander student, American Indian student. Data represents demographics from state's lowest performing schools. By third grade, 29 are on grade level 16.8311, less than 1 Hispanic students, Caucasian students, African American students, multiracial students, Asian students, Pacific Islander student, American Indian student. Data represents demographics from state's lowest performing schools. By 11th grade, 22 plus on the ACT. 2 less than 1 multiracial students, less than 1 Hispanic students, Caucasian students, African American students, Asian students, Pacific Islander student, American Indian student. Data represents demographics from state's lowest performing schools. But only 4 students will graduate from NV state colleges in 4 years. 211 less than 1 multiracial students, less than 1 Hispanic students, Caucasian students, African American students, Asian students, Pacific Islander student, American Indian student. Data represents demographics from state's lowest performing schools.
Only 1. We're going to pause the recording. Oh, over here. Pause.
Clark County School District Governance Policies. Families Community needs progress on the board vision, strategic to initiate and or approve new or revised policy. Members shall refrain from individually and privately monitoring the implementation of policy, programs, or operations processes. GP-2/3 Oversight through the careful establishment of broadly written policies reflecting the needs of the district students and the families' community's values and perspectives. The board's major policy focus shall be on addressing a. Locally defined needs and issues. B. Meeting the educational interests of all students. C. Supporting progress toward the board vision, strategic imperatives, pledge of achievement, and other support strategies. D. Improve learning for all students. GP 4.1/IA or any other confidential business of the board. GP 4.2/6B Recognizing individual interactions with employees of the superintendent lack authority except when explicitly authorized by the board. GP 4.2/6D GP 4.2/6H Presenting any criticisms of any employee directly to the superintendent or his/her designee. GP 4.2/6IA6 As a trustee, there may be information shared that is in the planning stages. It is not your role to go to school locations or departments divisions and tell them what may or may not happen. That is the role of the superintendent or his staff. If confidential information is not kept confidential, details of the work will not be shared with you unless it is in a formal setting. This is a violation of the governance policies of the trustees. GP 4.2/9 Board members shall meet responsibilities to the community by A. Attempting to appraise fairly both the present and future educational needs of the family community. D. Engaging in proactive and ongoing dialogue with the family community. This shall be achieved by 1. Structured and intentional assignment of board members to serve on or attend meetings and events held by external stakeholders throughout the district. Refusing to discuss personnel matters anywhere but in the proper board setting, acting only upon the recommendations of the superintendent in matters of employment or dismissal of district personnel. Lola Brooks, November 4, 2020. Reference 3.01b, page 1 of 4. 2. Expansion of the external committee service should be planned during a board work session at least annually. Board members shall report briefly on relevant and significant issues raised by external entities during a scheduled time at each board meeting. E. Seeking to involve the family community in the schools and the educational process. C. Should a trustee focus on externally collected data? GP-2/1 The board shall regarding federal, state, contractual, and staff needs in initiating and requesting new policy and policy revision. GP-2/4, the board shall receive information from the superintendent which reflects the progress or the need for improvement toward the board vision, strategic imperatives, pledge of achievement, and other support strategies. The board may craft within policy, tracking and reporting protocols for the superintendent. GP 4.2/2 board members shall strive to make policy decisions, which reflects the progress or the need for improvement toward the GP 4.2/12 making decisions based on information garnered from superintendent and staff reports presented at board meetings. Additional information requested through the superintendent and family and community input. Should the trustee offer individual expertise in the board meeting? GP-2/2, the board shall honor diverse viewpoints from the family's community and staff but not substitute individual expertise or interest for the judgment of the board. GP 4.2/6A7 if with attaining goals in the strategic imperatives or improving work in CCST, please. GP 4.2/10D balance participation with everyone participating and no one dominating. GP 4.2/10F accomplishing work in an atmosphere of trust and openness with respect and courtesy. Consistently use relevant data and expertise provided by the superintendent based on information received from the superintendent board vision, strategic. You have ideas that can help discuss them with the superintendent. Should the trustee focus on operations and management in board meetings? GP 4.2/10 effective and productive meetings, open dialogue and intended to focused on policy actions, check the progress and improve achievement of the board vision, strategic. GP 4.2/10C keeping discussions centered on the agenda and staying focused on progress checking and discussion of the board vision, strategic. GP 10 number 1, the board shall attempt to focus the majority of regular board meeting agendas on goal and progress monitoring rather than deliberation of operations and management topics. Reference 3.01b, page 2 of 4. F. How should trustees communicate outside the boardroom? GP 4.2/4b, GP 4.2 number 5, board members and the superintendent shall engage in professional public communications to respect and ensure an unobstructed process of whole board deliberation and policy approval. This includes a. B. Supporting the integrity of final board decisions and supporting the implementation of those policy decisions while retaining the right to publicly share one's own reasons for voting against the particular policy or program. C. D. Providing appropriate deference when approached by the public. For example, board members shall defer comments regarding inquiries about district issues, i.e. media inquiries, to the superintendent, who will speak for the district. Likewise, public comments or inquiry directed to the superintendent regarding board practices or actions should be deferred without comment to the board president, who will confer with the whole board on such matters during a regular board meeting, and when directed by the whole board, respond on their behalf. GP 4.2/6C, Theme 2, Request for Information Assistance. A. How should the trustee request information or assistance? BSL 3 number 1, the board may communicate with, but generally shall not give instructions to or request reports, information, or actions from persons who report directly or indirectly to the superintendent, refusing to make statements or promises regarding voting on any matter that should properly come before the board as a whole. Suspending decision-making and public comment until proper analysis of data and whole board discussion is concluded and a vote is cast. Refraining from speaking individually to the media or posting public comment on social media regarding board or district matters that are under policy or program deliberation, and prior to a discussion and vote by the board. Individual board members shall defer board inquiries on such matters to the board president, who shall prepare a statement speaking on behalf of the whole board. The written statement shall include the vote count and the reasons behind dissenting votes. refraining from expressing individual judgments of performance of the superintendent or employees of the superintendent. GP-2/5 All board member data or reports. Reporting family, community, or inmate the superintendent or the superintendent's liaison to the Board of Trustees requests for significant information shall be GP 4.2/14. Board members shall recognize that authority rests only with the board during official staff complaints or concerns requests for substantive staff assistance exclusively through meetings. GP11 Board will encourage issues to be first directed to the appropriate staff members and worked through the organizational chain of command prior to bringing matters to the board. Reference 3.01b, page 3 of 4. BSL2 Number 1 Decisions or directives of individual board members, officers, or committees are not binding. BSL2 Number 2 In cases where board members or committees or employee action without explicit board approval, when such requests, in the superintendent's opinion, have already been provided, are outside the proper authority or role of the requester, or require a material amount of staff time or funds to fulfill. B. How should request follow-up work? GP6 Number 1, GP11 Board members who believe the superintendent has not reported back to them in a timely or with an acceptable response to the complaint or concern shall address their concern using the Balanced Governance Progressive Response Process, BSL2 Number 2A. In cases where a trustee requests from an employee, reports, information, assistance or employee action without explicit superintendent approval, the employee is directed to report the request immediately to the superintendent or their designee, and not follow through with such request until directed to do so by the superintendent. BSL2 Number 2B If the superintendent does not agree with the request of an individual board member to create reports or commit employee time and energy, the board member has the option to accept that decision or follow 1. The guidelines as described in GP10, construction of the agenda, in order to place the request as an action item on board meeting agenda. On the superintendent. Information, which is neither for monitoring performance nor board decisions, shall be request reports, information, assistance the superintendent shall obtain board approval avoided or minimized manner reference 3.01b page 4 of 4.
Now we're just gonna have to pause it one more time.
If school trustees recognizes that students whose needs exceed those of the general education population as a result of a disability may require special programs and services in order that they have the opportunity to develop their potential, the board authorizes a program of special education for the purpose of providing such students educational opportunities commensurate with those offered in general education. 2. To the maximum extent appropriate, students with disabilities shall be educated with their non-disabled peers and special classes. Separate schooling, or other removal of handicapped children from the regular education environment shall occur only when the nature and severity of the handicap is such that education in regular classes with the use of supplementary aids and services cannot be achieved satisfactorily. The district shall provide a continuum of alternative placements to meet the needs of students with disabilities for special education and related services. The continuum will include alternative placements, including instruction in regular classes, special classes, and home instruction, as appropriate, in providing or arranging for the provision of non-academic or extracurricular services and activities, including meals and recess periods. Each student with a disability will participate with non-disabled children in those services and activities to the maximum extent appropriate to the needs of that child. Unless the IEP, Individualized Education Program, of a student with disabilities requires some other arrangement, the child shall be educated in his home school. 3. Programs and services of special education which are required and funded by the state of Nevada shall be organized and implemented in the Clark County School District. Administrative regulations and procedures in compliance with state and federal requirements are to be developed for the conduct of such programs and services. 6164. Page 2. Legal references. Review responsibility. Adopted. Revised. Paul Governor Reverend. NRS Chapter 388 System of Public Instruction, NRS Chapter 389 Courses of Study, NRS Chapter 395 Education of Visually or Orally Handicapped Persons, Administrative Student Support Services. 6164 to 1474, August 13th, 81, September 24th, 81, February 14th, 85, June 28th, 01.
Just want you to understand. The last time the board adopted any policy was June the 28th, 2001. So what are we doing some 20 years later by placing African-American children in alternative programs like Zoom and SOS, or I mean, not Zoom, because Zoom and Victory are really schools that are run under the policies of the federal government. Those are the two types of programs that are run that way, besides the gifted and talented programs. I mean, there are resources available, but not many are utilized from the Black community, but you get what you ask for. And that's real. The law is the law.